it's Lauren Daisy. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be doing a video that I'm super excited for, responding to, reacting to your Pretty Little Liars unpopular opinions. So I went on Reddit into the Pretty Little Liars subreddit and I asked, what do you feel like are your most unpopular opinions about the show? I'm gonna make a YouTube video and I want to kind of see what people have to say, and yeah, so I'm gonna be reading through those today, just having a little chit chat about them. I just thought that could be kind of fun, seeing if I agree with them or if I disagree with them. So yeah, we're gonna jump straight into it. And let me know in the comments if you agree with these, if you disagree, or if you have one that hasn't been mentioned. I would love to hear it. First up we have, Paige is not that bad and she has some good moments. She should get lots of appreciation for saving Spencer after Spencer was so rude to her. I feel like in my heart of hearts, I don't like Paige. I think she does get so much hate, like maybe a bit too much. I do agree with that, and I think she does have good moments. I completely agree, and definitely saving Spencer from the Queen of Hearts was one of those. And Emily obviously cared a lot for her and she made Emily happy. I don't know what it is about Paige. I just think the way that they kind of began was a very iffy way for it to go. I think that kind of set the tone for their relationship. I didn't really like her from then, so it kind of made it hard for me to come around to her and like warm to her character. She does have some good moments, but they're kind of few and far between a little bit. Like I'm kind of trying to rack my brain and I can't think of like a, oh, I do really love that Emily and Paige moment, to be honest. She always came across to me as quite overprotective and jealous. Towards the end, especially after the time jump, I think she kind of got a case of the Vanessa Abrams treatment. If you've seen Gossip Girl, then you'll know who Vanessa Abrams is, and I think when they introduced Paige, she maybe could have been endgame for Emily, but I think seeing the reception of Paige and how much people didn't like her maybe influenced the writers. And you know, when she came back after the time jump, she still hated Allison, she still wanted Emily, and she still was kind of the same character. And the things that kind of people didn't like about her, they really emphasized, and I think made her into more of an unlikable character, so that you would then ship Allison and Emily, because they were obviously going to be endgame. Cece is a good choice for A, but the Charles thing made it messy. I completely agree with this. I was thinking about this morning actually, because I think I'm gonna do a video on kind of like how I wish Pretty Little Lies had ended, or maybe things that I would change. And I was thinking about the Cece reveal, and I actually enjoyed it when it first like happened, and I was sat there and I was like, and she turned around and I was like, oh my god, like it was good because we knew who she was, so it wasn't just a random person, someone we'd never met before. You can kind of connect the dots. Some things are obviously very fuzzy, and there are a lot of plot holes, but it being Cece was a good idea and was a good concept. I just agree that maybe the whole Charles thing just, yeah, made it a bit messy. Because I think having a trans character in such a mainstream show is a very, you know, good thing to include. And I think the new Pretty Little Liars has actually done it very well, in that Ash is trans and he is just such a sweetheart and he's such a nice character, and his kind of story of, you know, coming out is very in like a very positive light, whereas it being used as part of Charlotte's origin story, like villain origin story, yeah, just made it seem a little bit in poor taste. And I think there's been a lot of criticism over the years for how they handled the transgender storyline, and I would agree with that. The intention wasn't to raise awareness. The intention wasn't to, you know, have a positive representation of the trans community. It was to throw people off. Like, it was a bit of a cheap kind of, oh, we're gonna make it seem like it's Charles and it's, you know, a guy, and then it's gonna be like a whoa, you know, throw him off course, it's actually CC. Like, that was the intent of the Charles thing, rather than like for any kind of positive reason. So I think that's why it does come off as quite disingenuous, because I think deep down it is. I don't think it was malicious, but I do think it was definitely not handled correctly. It being CC, but she had different motives, or maybe it turned out that she was still Alison's sister, but something else had kind of happened, you know, and stuff like that. I think it could have been a good reveal, because yeah, we already knew her. She had kind of a suspicious kind of energy around her anyway, and her and Ali had this really close, you know, relationship, and I think it could have worked really well had it just been handled a little bit differently. Mike is one of the most annoying characters ever, and unlike Shower Harvey, he has no cringy funny lines. I totally get that. I think Mike is irritating. I think he got better. I really liked him and Mona together. I thought that really helped his character out, but yeah, he is kind of irritating, especially in like the first two seasons, you know, where he's just so kind of angry at Arya, and is mean to her all the time. And I get that obviously he was kind of going through a lot, and I think that was a good storyline to show, you know, the effect of parents' divorce, and especially in boys as well, you know, boys' mental health, all that kind of stuff. I think was a great storyline to show. But other than that, yeah, he doesn't really do much, and he can be kind of irritating sometimes. But all in all, I think I do like Mike. I wouldn't have like taken him out of the show or anything. But I almost wish he had like more of a role, or like less of a role. He's kind of like this weird in between character where at some points he's really in the show, and like you're supposed to care about what he's doing and is he good or is he bad, and him and Mona, but then he's just gone. So like I feel like maybe they needed to either do more with him or just keep him as purely just like a kind of, not even really side character, but recurring character. Hannah is the real protagonist of season 1, even if the show promoted Arya as one. I think that's true. I think, well, do I think that's true? I think Arya was definitely kind of marketed as the main girl, you know. The whole story kind of starts when she comes back from Iceland, and her kind of big secret is kind of the first ones that we see, you know. She's got Ezra and she's got the thing with her dad and everything like that. But I do think that Hannah has more of a clear kind of like story arc and character build throughout season 1, you know, everything that happens with Caleb and her dad, and kind of drifting from wanting to be this perfect popular girl like Allison, and kind of realizing that she just kind of wants to be Hannah. And the drama with, you know, her mom and the bank. And I thought, yeah, she definitely has more of a story that you kind of want to root for more. I think Arya less so, because you're not really rooting for her to stay with the teacher. And well, I guess that's kind of how you're supposed to, but I think Hannah comes off as maybe, yeah, more of a protagonist. But I think they're a lot more equal in the first few seasons. Like, all the girls and their storylines are quite equal. You get a pretty good divide between all 4 of them. So I wouldn't say Hannah maybe feels like the main protagonist. I feel like they all kind of are.
We all say true.
But I would agree that I don't think Arya is the main protagonist of season 1 for sure. Pam got a realistic storyline, and she had major development from being a non-accepting parent to one who tries to accept and understand to fully accepting. I'm so sad that people still see her as the Karen she used to be in season 1. I completely agree with this. I think that, as kind of upsetting as it is to see how Pam is in season 1, it is part of like a journey and part of a very realistic scenario that lots of people in the LGBT community have experienced with their parents, grandparents, whoever it is. And I do think it's a good story to tell of how at the first she wasn't sure, you know, and she just didn't know how to handle it. But she never like disowned Emily or didn't love her, and she did kind of learn to be okay with things and accept her. And then after that she is completely fine, and you know, obviously loves Emily and wants her to be happy, and she likes Alison, you know, and Alison obviously in the end asks for Pam's permission to propose to Emily and all this stuff. So I think, yeah, I think it was an important story to tell, and that I know one that a lot of people were inspired by at the time and that connected with at the time. And I think Pam kind of did redeem herself, and she showed true, character development. Ashley is an interesting character and has good intention, but she is not the best mother. I think she's second best after Pam. The problem is that she is so impulsive in a way that could hurt Hannah. Ashley was interesting. I feel like a lot of times she gets picked as the best mum, which I don't really know if I agree with that. They've all definitely got their flaws. I think Ashley, you can tell she obviously cares a lot about Hannah, and I think she gets better as the season goes on. Same with Pam. But initially, yeah, she does kind of make impulsive decisions. I think it's hard because we obviously see everything that happens with the girls, and we know why you can't go to the police, or you can't say anything, or you can't do this and you can't do that. Whereas Ashley doesn't have that kind of information, so she kind of does sometimes just jump into things or make decisions when she thinks she's protecting Hannah, when in reality she's not. But I think that's kind of a realistic view of one form of parenting. She wanted to protect Hannah, and she always tried her best to do that, even if we as the audience are like, oh no, you can't do that, but like she doesn't know that. So I cut her a little bit of slack on that one. Caleb became such a pig in the time jump. I see where you're coming from. I think Caleb is definitely different after the time jump, but I think a lot of them are. I guess they kind of chalk it up to, you know, 5 years later they're more mature, they're adults now. But for me, when I watch, you know, season 7 especially, and like the second half of season 6, is it? They don't feel like the same characters to me sometimes. They are all very different. I think Caleb is definitely a victim of the time jump. I'm assuming him being a pig is kind of more connected to Spaleb, Haleb drama. And yeah, I think it was a weird storyline to do. I think it definitely, Caleb, who has always been so much of like one to root for, like he's always been the good guy, you know. Toby had his kind of blip, and then he had his whole thing with being a cop and stuff like that, and obviously Ezra is Ezra. But Caleb was always the good guy. He was always the good guy, and I think, yeah, the time jump definitely tainted that. I think I still like his character, I still enjoy his character, but yeah, I think it was definitely different after the time jump for sure. The Alex idea was good, but it was not written well. It wasn't such a surprise that Alex was AD, because by the time we got to season 7, they were out of characters that could have been AD. For me, I don't enjoy the Alex Drake ending. It was kind of a bit too similar in some ways to what we already had. You know, secret sibling, doesn't like that they've been left out, mistreated, all that kind of stuff, takes it out on the girls, plays a game with them. It's kind of the Cece reveal. The twin reveal, I think was a good concept. In the books, it works out very well, like it's a great ending in the books. Yeah, I agree, I think it wasn't written the best. But I still don't think I would have enjoyed it, even had it have been written better. Spencer, for me, didn't feel like the right choice for the evil twin. To be honest, I feel like with the 4 main girls, it just wouldn't really work. It's a bit like stretching the imagination a bit too far, I think. Do I think it's well written? as you said, no. But do I think that had it been better written, it still would have worked? Honestly, no. Yes, we had run out of a lot of characters, but I think we still had some pretty good contenders left. I think Alison, I think Ren, even though, you know, they kind of made Ren, but it was a bit of a cheap throwaway. He's a who else did we have? A lot of people obviously like the idea of Arya. That one's not for me so much. Melissa, you know, I think we definitely had people, and people like you could have brought back from the early seasons, because obviously you've had a 5-year time jump. Like, their motives don't have to come from season 1 or whatever. I think Jenna was a good one. You know, maybe I'll do like a list of all the potential people that could have been A and who would have been the best. I kind of liked that Ella and Byron got back together. It's not usual to see a couple deciding to get back together over past problems and starting on a new page. I agree. I think by that point enough time had passed for them to kind of get over the Meredith thing. I was like fine to see them back together again. I agree. I think it's not really, oh well, is it something you see that? Well, kind of. The Gossip Girl. So maybe, don't really know. I think I liked her and Zach. I thought that was a sweet storyline, and then they obviously ruined his character by making him make a move on Hannah. I thought that was kind of cute, you know, she was kind of living her best after this awful thing that happened to her in her old marriage, and then this guy turned out to be a sleazebag again. I mean, I think ultimately, if they didn't really have any other partners for them, the parents had kind of been phased out a bit by the time jump anyway. So yeah, I think it made sense. I fully understand Ella not wanting to call the police after Ezria came out after the mess with the shovel, Ian and Alison drama. It was maybe best to not call the police and gain more attention for Arya. Honestly, I agree. I think Arya had been through a lot at that point, and just looking at it kind of more from an emotional standpoint, Ezra obviously meant a lot to her. She loved him. So I think just throwing him in jail would not have been the best approach. It would have damaged her relationship with Arya forever, even if it was the right thing to do. With all the other stuff going on, Arya like being basically accused of murdering Alison because they were all found with those shovels and everything. And yeah, Ian and Alison, I guess they kind of just didn't want all of that happening and all of that coming out. And also, it's a lot. Like, it would have been a lot to go through, just like if that was actually like in real life, you know, like as for Arya to go through, for having him arrested, and then, you know, there would have, I assume there would have been, you know, a court case and all this stuff, and Arya would have been absolutely thrown into it, and she wouldn't have wanted to actually send him to jail. So that then also would have been a tricky kind of situation as well, like, because Ella would be the one pressing charges, but Arya wouldn't want to. And yeah, so I think I do see why Ella didn't call the police. It made sense for the story as well at the time. Emily turned toxic after Ali returned. Yeah, Emily is one of those where her character changed a lot throughout the seasons. And when she found out that Ali was back, obviously she did everything she could to help her. And then once Ali was back, you know, she kind of distanced herself. We didn't really see her with the other girls so much. It was very much all focused on Ali. And she did a lot of things to protect Ali and, you know, kind of fight for her that didn't gel well with other people. So yeah, I feel like I could see that. Having either Ren or Arya be A are the most overhyped theories. Honestly, I agree a little bit. I need to look into them more. I think I might do a video where I literally go through like the whole, like a whole Ren is A thread, Arya is A thread, and kind of like talk about it, because maybe then I'll be more of a believer. But for me, I never got the inkling that Arya was A. Maybe I'm a bit biased because Arya is my favorite liar, but I never got the vibe that she was A. You know, it just didn't really make sense to me. And yeah, Ren as A, I could kind of see maybe a bit more. It would have depended how they, you know, the motive they would have given him and how they would have written it. But if it was like, you know, when Mona was in Radley, maybe, you know, they became close and he then was doing it like to avenge her or something, or like Cece, like, because maybe he, when he was working at Radley, him and Cece or something, I don't really know. I feel like, yeah, I need to read more into it to see what people think his motives would have been. But I do agree that they're very big theories, like they have a lot of backing, and they're not ones that I've ever kind of had any kind of investment in. So I would be interested to see why they get so much hype. Melissa was treated poorly by the writers after the 3rd season. She basically disappears, didn't she? She obviously was the Black Swan. You know, she's very involved in the 1st season, like the 1st season and season 2. But yeah, after season 3, she kind of like dips. And they're like, oh, she just like moved to London with Ren. But we never really see them kind of rekindle that. Came a bit out of nowhere. I think Melissa ultimately is a good character. I think she was a very good kind of like sparring partner for Spencer. And she definitely could have been far more involved in the A-team if they kind of wanted to go in that direction. I feel like that would have been good. So I think she definitely does have some wasted potential. Emily being toxic in romantic relationships. From day one, she has not had a single healthy relationship, even Maya. Honestly, I kind of agree. I'm a hardcore Emily and Maya. I loved them. I think as well because their relationship is like so sweet in the books as well. Maya got a little tricky towards the end. I think ultimately they were really sweet and she gave Emily that confidence she needed and they truly loved each other. But yeah, it got a bit weird and complicated when obviously then she got sent away to True North, and when she came back she wasn't really the same. So I kind of see that. But yeah, everyone else after that, maybe not Samara actually, because, well, was Samara really a relationship? Maybe not too much. But yeah, Allison definitely has its red flags. Paige has its red flags. Sabrina wasn't really a relationship, I guess. But, I mean, Emily kind of just like lied to her the whole time. Talia that was married, there was that, I forgot about that. Yeah, I feel like I'm giving spoilers for my, if you want to hear how I feel about Emily's relationships, go over to my ranking all of Emily Field's love interest video. But I can see where you're coming from. I didn't feel bad when the liars got Allison arrested. People always complain that the liars framed Ali for Mona's death. The liars had every right to suspect Allison when she turned on them. No, it wasn't right, but Allison was the one who began to antagonize them, not the other way around. I agree, actually. When they turned her in, it kind of made sense in their eyes. Like when you kind of have to look at everything that happened, maybe they should have spoken to her first, but then would she have told them the truth? I guess they had no way to trust that she would. Actually trying to like set up evidence was a bit far, like when they were going to put her hair in the crime scene, like no. That's a step too far. But just kind of presenting what they knew, like, and kind of what they thought, yeah, I thought it was pretty fair enough. I think especially because at that point as well, their friendship wasn't that strong. Like, it wouldn't have been like one of the liars turning on one of the other liars. Like, it wouldn't have been Hannah trying to frame Arya or something like that, because they have been together now for 5 years, like, as a strong group. And then before that with Allison. Whereas with Ali, she left them and she continually, once she was back, you know, she'd been gone for five years, I think. No, 3 years. Oh no, because yeah, the timelines are weird in Pretty Little Lies. Like, it's 5 seasons, but I think it's supposed to be over like 3 years or something. 2 years. Like, she'd been gone for so long, and when she came back, all she really did was lie to them again. So there wasn't that kind of strong foundation for them to trust her. So I do think it made sense. When I like posted this, I was like, you know, like, I was like, I'll start. So I said that Arya was my favorite liar because I feel like Spencer and Hannah get a lot of love. And not so much Arya and Emily, and specifically not Arya. But she is my favorite liar. And I had a couple people say that Arya was her like favorite as well. Jaria should have been endgame. If you want to know my opinion on Jaria versus Ezria, then go over to my Arya Montgomery ranking love interests. I said those words all in the wrong order video. I love Charlotte's entire storyline, her neglect and abuse as a child, and how the A game finally gave her control over something in her life. People always look at it as, oh, she was mad because the girls were happy Ali was gone, but if you analyze it and look into it more, her whole character is amazing. And then we have a similar one. I loved Charlotte's storyline. I often think about the scene where Jessica goes to see her in Radley to tell her she gets to go to college. The heartbreak, the excitement alone is enough to make me want to be A for her. Vanessa Ray gave her depth of character. I thought it was very clever to make her A. The planning and the clues were all spot on. And yeah, more people agreeing with that as well. Honestly, I do agree. Like, I think, yeah, it was written, I think the bit that sours people a lot on it is the misrepresentation of the trans community. But I think the actual premise of Cece secretly being Ali's sister, and you know, she never had control and she was in Radley and they kind of shunned her away, and Ali had this perfect life and the game gave her control, and how she had met Mona. Like, I do think it is set up well, and I think that Cece was a good A choice. So yeah, I do agree, and I totally agree that Vanessa played her perfectly. I absolutely love Vanessa Ray, and I think she was a great Cece. Arya gets a lot of hate for how she treated her friends, but Spencer was a terrible friend to the girls after she and Toby broke up in season 3. I agree. I'm obviously going to be a bit of an Arya defender because I do love her. But yeah, I think Spencer was super harsh, and she kind of gets maybe a bit more slack for doing that because she was going through so much. Like, she was in a bit of a spiral. But you know, she treated Jason really badly, she treated the other girls really badly. I think Arya says something like, we're your friends, not your punching bags. Or did she say that to Hannah? I don't know. But like, all the girls have moments where they aren't the best friends. Hannah had that when Ali came back. Emily kind of had that as well, you know, when she kind of brushed everyone to the side for Allison. So I do think it's harsh. Obviously Arya took it to quite an extreme because she technically joined the A team. Spencer definitely also had her fair share of poor friendship moments. So I'm always going to agree that I don't think Arya deserves all the hate that she gets. This one says, okay guys, please don't hate me, but they've got a couple. So I actually kind of liked Sarah Harvey. I don't hate you, but I don't agree. I just thought the whole thing was a bit weird. Turning out that Sarah Harvey was, I want to call her like Black Widow, but that's not what they called her. She was Redcoat, and she was the lady from the funeral. Why can't I remember her name? When we didn't know her, and her motives didn't even really make sense. None of it really made sense. I'm trying to find something, but I can't. I'm sorry. But that's fair enough. If that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. I was a Paley shipper. Wouldn't say I ship with anyone anymore, but I still like Paige, so I would say I was a Paley shipper. The thing with PLL is that there's not really a lot of big choices when it comes to love interests. Even when I was doing my ranking videos, there'd be like 10 for each girl, like, of people to choose from, but there's not really big loves to choose from, if that makes sense. Like, you kind of only have people that dated the lives for a really long time. There's not a lot of them. There's kind of one main person for each of them, and then a secondary kind of contender. Even then, most of the time, they didn't really stand a chance against the main person, right? If you don't like Allison, you kind of only have Paige as your other option. And I think it's kind of a shame. Paige gets a lot of hate because she is just kind of like the other choice. And if you ship, you know, her and Ali, then you obviously, people aren't gonna like Paige. So yeah, I don't know. I see why people ship them. I do get it, but they're just not for me. Spencer is so overrated. I love Spencer. I love her a lot. But again, even in the last seasons, those last 2 seasons, the characters don't feel the same to me anymore. And I think that made those last 2 seasons maybe like Spencer a little bit less. I still love her. She's always been one of my favorites. But I do think sometimes maybe she gets so much more love than some of the other girls, and maybe gets a pass on some things that she does because people love her so much, whereas like Aria gets a lot of hate, Emily gets a lot of hate. So yeah, I can see maybe how she's maybe a little bit overhyped, but I still love her. Cece being A was obvious. I don't know about that actually. I don't think I really thought that it was too obvious. I thought she was definitely a contender because who else did we kind of have at that time? But I was still kind of like surprised. I was still kind of shocked with the reveal. Mike and Mona were cute together. Oh my god, I didn't realize this was an unpopular opinion. I love them together. I think that's so cute. Jason and Aria were gross. I see that. I see that. I see like why you would think that, especially because, you know, he was Ali's older brother and stuff. But I do like them a little bit. All of the parents except for Wayne sucked. Ashley and Mrs. Montgomery are tied for the worst mothers. I don't know. I didn't think Ella was that bad actually. I would have put her like higher up on the list. But then I guess she's a bit distant, maybe that's why. And maybe because she, you know, kind of came around to Ezra. But yeah, I feel like I said, all the mums have flaws. They've all got their issues. I'm so happy that Allison wasn't A. Her redemption arc wasn't that bad. I don't know. I think I didn't mind that they made Allison nice and kind of like tried to redeem her. But I think it was kind of at the detriment of her character. I think they could have done it in a better way. But I kind of would have liked if she stayed evil. I feel like evil Ali is kind of iconic, even though she's awful. Jenna should have had more to do with the A-team. I agree. I feel like Jenna was prime villain material, and they kind of let that slip between their fingers there. Noel should have been a good guy, and Noel and Aria should have ended up together. Have you read the books? Because I feel like if you read the books, you're definitely more of a Noel apologist. I kind of agree. I think Noel and Aria were cute together. They're very cute together in the books. So it would have made sense for him to maybe be more of a contender, more of a stronger love interest. For him to be a good guy, I never really got his evil arc, just didn't really make any sense. It seemed like a kind of cheap, like, oh, we know him, so oh my god, it's him. But yeah, so yeah, I see that. Aria was a horrible girlfriend and friend. She could be a horrible girlfriend. I think she cheats on every single guy that she goes out with, including Ezra. So that's not great. I don't think she's a horrible friend. I think she, like Spencer, like the other girls, sometimes makes poor choices. Byron wasn't as bad as people make him out to be. With Byron, I feel kind of indifferent, to be honest. He is a bit of a dick. You know, obviously what he did with Meredith was not good. And asking Aria to lie about it was also not good. So I don't really care for him too much. But, you know, in the later seasons, he kind of redeems himself a little bit. And obviously he and Ella end up happy together in the end. So I'm kind of neither here or there with him. Here or there? Neither here nor there with him, really. Ezra/Ezria should have been AD. Okay. I don't agree with Aria being involved. But Ezra being the big AD, that would have been crazy. That would have been crazy shit. I would have loved that. If the reveal in season 5 hadn't happened and then it turned out that that was the big plot, maybe if it had been kind of different in the way that it was orchestrated, and that had been his big motive, was that he had loved Allison kind of the whole time. Maybe, or I don't really know, but that's kind of interesting. I kind of like that. I literally live for this shit. I love seeing people's opinions. Okay, Spencer is the main protagonist after season 3. Oh, 100%. 100%. I kind of want to do a video on this as well, of how main characters shift as the show goes on and the writers see who people like. Kind of similarly to Gossip Girl. So in Gossip Girl, when you start out, Serena is the main protagonist. She's, you know, kind of in the same way as Aria. It starts when she comes back and all this stuff. But then you get the shift after, like, yeah, season 2, season 3, where Blair is now the main character. People, you know, they kind of saw what they had with Leighton, kind of like how they did with Troyan, and how much people like their characters and stuff, and they kind of then, the show is centered around them instead. So I completely agree with that. I think that is 100% accurate. Caleb was always a dick. Caleb was a little toxic. Interesting, because I do think that Caleb was a little bit toxic, but I think it came from Hannah's side and not Caleb towards the end. I loved them before the time jump, but yeah, after the time jump, obviously the whole Spaleb thing was weird, and then also Hannah just became so mean in the time jump. Does anyone else feel like that? Like, she became so like harsh, and I felt like she didn't treat Caleb properly. Spencer went through the most, Arya went through the least. Interesting. I have a video coming actually, and I asked Reddit for their opinions on this as well, of which line had it the worst. So I'm not going to spoil where I put and who I think had it the worst, but I think that's an interesting choice. Arya ending up with Ezra actually made sense. I think it did make sense too. It's not who I would have put her with. I think it's definitely not who a lot of people would have put her with, but just because of their story arc and how much time she spent with him, it didn't make sense for her to end up with anybody else, really, unless they kind of used the time jump to, like they did, you know, reunite her with Jason or gave her this Liam guy. But even then, the writers never had any kind of intention of her ending up with anyone else. So in terms of plot, it wouldn't have made sense for her to end up with anyone else. Hannah is overrated. Kind of a similar thing to Spencer. I guess, you know, I think a lot of people love Hannah. And I do too, but yeah, I think towards the end she got really mean, and I think that kind of lowered her in my rankings a little bit. I actually liked the time jump and the relationships that came with it. For me, the time jump isn't my favorite. I would have loved if it had ended before the time jump. And the relationships, it's just not for me, personally. But I do get it. It kind of added a bit of a refresh, kind of jigged everyone around a little bit, I suppose. So I see why people might like it. I loved Sydney until they put her with Jenna. I liked Sydney too. I thought she was a good character. I thought she had a lot of potential, and yeah, I think they definitely underused her until they put her with Jenna. I kind of liked that, to be honest. I kind of liked her being part of this, you know, team, and Jenna being able to sway people and make them sympathize with her and get them to kind of do things to help her out. I kind of enjoyed that story arc. And Jason is a horrible brother. Yeah, I think in the early seasons he definitely is. And then we don't really get to see any of them actually being siblings, which I think is a shame, because a big part of Ali's redemption arc is that she's changed, and a lot of Jason's demons come from his parents, and I think they could have had a really close relationship, and it would have been nice to see that a bit more. Melissa isn't a bad sister most of the time, except for when she lets her boyfriends groom her sister. Yeah, I feel like I disagree. I think Melissa is a bad sister. Obviously she says she did what she did with Bethany to protect Spencer, so you're kind of supposed to forgive her a little bit for that, but she blames Spencer with the whole Ren thing, blames her for Ian. She does all this stuff to the point where I think she's kind of irredeemable. Talia and Emily would have been a great couple if Talia was her age and not married. I kind of see that. I feel like the issue with Talia is, though, the thing, like, the reason she was the way she was, like, she was quite mature, and, you know, her being a chef and all that kind of stuff came because of how old she was, like. So I feel like if you aged her down and she wasn't married, she wouldn't be the same character. So I think if Emily had been older, then yeah, I thought they could have been a cute pairing. Travis was unnecessary. I liked him, but he didn't do anything. I love Travis. I thought Travis was such a cutie. And it kind of made sense. He was the witness to prove that Ashley hadn't murdered Wilden, and he was really sweet to Hannah, so I kind of liked him. Alison didn't deserve to be buried alive or anything else that happened to her after that, not even for the way she was before everything happened. I agree. I mean, she was an absolute cow. Like, let's not lie. But did she deserve to be buried alive by her own mother? And like the shit she went through with Cyrus and like all this stuff, like, no, I don't think so. The writers knew exactly how wrong Ezra was. They even pointed it out multiple times by various characters or an imagination of Ezra getting arrested. They just chose not to do anything about it. I agree. In the books, it's very different to how it is in the show. And like, they're obviously pulling from source material from the book. They just chose to ignore it because people liked them together. Do I think that's right? Absolutely not. One of the big ones that I think always got me was how they got back together after the book. Because had it just been that they'd met and he didn't know how old she was and they fell in love and all this stuff, still would have been weird, still would have been icky. I'm not saying it would have been right, but if they, you know, spent time apart and then after the time jump she was older and they got back together, you know, like, I could have seen that. I think it would have been less creepy and weird. I mean, would it have been? I don't know. But anyway, follow me here. The whole book and him knowing who she was when they met and knowing how old she was, like, that just takes it to a whole nother level that they shouldn't have come back from. Toby after season 3 is completely useless and I hate him after that. Toby before season 3 was sweet and generous. Honestly, I kind of agree to a certain extent. In the time jump, well, I've already said it multiple times, I think all the characters change kind of for the worse. But Toby changes for the better. Because I feel like past the time jump, we get Toby back. Like the proper Toby, the one that Spencer fell in love with and he's building the house, like how he built her the chair. And that really, yeah, sweet nature of their 1 to 3 relationship. I think we kind of got back in the end from Toby. So I do like him overall. But I agree, I think him being a cop and that kind of, what was that, yeah, 4 to 5 maybe seasons of their relationship, I agree. He's kind of boring, he doesn't really do much, and he's kind of irritating, which is a shame because I love Toby and Spencer together. I like the seasons after the time jump more than before. My go-to rewatch, if I don't watch the whole show, is always season 6 and 7. That is really interesting because for me, I've not seen 6 and 7 as many times as I've seen the rest. I've rewatched Pretty Little Liars a lot of times, and I've never like just watched 6 and 7. Actually, tell a lie, I watched some of 7 with my best friend Miranda when she was rewatching it because she hadn't seen it, so I rewatched like just that season with her. But yeah, for me, my go-to is usually seasons 1 and 2, and then I've seen those 2 countless times, like countless times, and then yeah, 3, 4 and 5. But yeah, 6 and 7, I've not seen as many times as the others. I kind of sometimes like to pretend that it just doesn't exist. None of the A's had the best motive. All of their motives weren't strong enough to be A. That's kind of interesting, because I feel like A is like serious shit. Like the stuff that A does and puts the girls through, like, is serious business. And I kind of agree that sometimes it kind of seems like, especially like with Noel, like Noel or, you know, whoever it is that's helping usually doesn't have that good of a motive. I guess Cece's motive is a good one because it, you know, stems from like a long time of feeling left out and her thing with her parents and Ali and everything. Mona made sense to me because she was so horrifically bullied by Allison and the girls, and she knew that Ali was alive the whole time. So like, that's where she got her secret. So it kind of made sense that she got her secrets like from Allison and stuff. Alex Drake, the motive does not fly with me. After season 5, the show is no longer about the missing girl Allison, which made the show pretty bad after that. I think as much as I love Sasha and I love her portrayal of Allison, once it wasn't about finding Ali anymore, it did get kind of like, they had to come up with something else, and I think that's kind of where the issue lies a bit more. And I think her being the center of it kind of gave it that buzz, you know. First she was missing and then she died, and it was who killed Allison and what happened to her, and then it was, is Allison alive, and then finding her, and all that stuff was so good that I think once they kind of didn't have that to go off of anymore, there was a bit of a decline in quality of storyline, I think. None of the lies should have been A. That would defeat the entire purpose of the show. I agree. Like, what I love about Pretty Little Liars so much is the friendships, and one of them being A would just completely destroy that, and it would make me see the whole show kind of differently, which makes sense. Like, I get why that would have big impact, but you could also do that with someone like Ezra that's been there from the beginning, or someone that's been there from an earlier time, because it does make you see it differently. But I think it would have just soured it for me if one of the girls had been A. With Aria being A, like with the A-team thing, and she had to, you know, turn against the girls for a little bit at the end of season 7. Like, I didn't like that because I love the friendships and I don't like anything that taints their friendship. That to me is the big pull of Pretty Little Liars, is their friendship. So I completely agree. It would have changed the entire dynamic of the show, and every time you rewatched it, you would be thinking like, oh, but she's actually evil this whole time. And I feel like that would take away from the fun of it. Maya's death was done perfectly. Not everything needs to be related to A. I feel like I get that, but I didn't want her to die in the first place. I didn't want her to die. And the fact that it was just a stranger and it's never really brought up again, like, I kind of get. But I think if it had been A that had done it, it would have had such impact, and would have, yeah, just made maybe more sense for the overall story. I did not want Hannah and Caleb to get back together. I liked Spencer and Caleb together. That's definitely a hot take, but I kind of see it. I think with Hannah and Caleb, she was so mean to him, like, after they got back together, and it made sense because they'd been together, you know, they were first loves and whatever. But I think Caleb and Spencer did make sense together. If you do want to see my opinion on them, obviously go and watch my Spencer ranking video. But I also, you know, to a certain extent liked Caleb and Spencer. Alex should have stayed Spencer and kept Spencer and Ezra locked up for like 5 years before they got out. That would have been a time jump I would have liked to have seen. That is interesting, because I think Alex only being revealed in the very last episode just didn't give enough time to really have any kind of impact. Whereas like if we'd seen it, like, and known that that is what had happened, and then there was a time jump and she had continued to be Spencer and we were seeing it, the reveal that, oh my god, some of those scenes were Alex, was pretty good. Like being like, oh my god, that was actually her, that wasn't Spencer, like, you know, that kind of thing. But to then have that in present time would have been like cool as well, like a few episodes where we're like, oh my god, like she is being Spencer, like Spencer is locked up, like this is all Alex, and being able to watch it. And then for the final reveal to not be to us but to be to the girls would have been really interesting, because I feel like we didn't get any kind of reaction really. Like the idea that Spencer had an evil twin and they're all just sat there like, oh my god, no way. And we didn't get that impact. We didn't get to see how that really impacted Spencer, how it impacted all the girls, and how it impacted Toby to know that she was someone else. Like it was all so rushed in like the last 10 minutes of the show. The show started going downhill when it became the Spencer show. I honestly do kind of get that. I'm going to talk about that in my video of like main character switching. When you change the show to fit someone specifically, I think that's what I kind of liked, is that even though Aria was supposed to be the main protagonist of season 1, she never truly was. There was always a good divide between each of the girls and their storylines and everything. Whereas, yeah, it did become very much centered around Spencer. All the other girls' storylines were centered around Spencer, the relationships, and then the fact that Big A was centered around Spencer, I think did kind of lose it a little bit and lost some of the charm of the show. And yeah, made it seem like she was the only lie that really mattered and that was important, because the girls were being tortured because of her in the end. And you kind of have to go back and it's all linked to her and it's not linked to any of the other girls, which kind of takes away from that big impact. Whereas like with Mona, it made sense because all of them bullied Mona along with Ali. They were all friends with Alice and that was the connection. Like, but with Spencer, it was kind of like, oh, they were friends with Spencer, so A wanted to torture them, like, just for being her friend. Like, not even for actively bullying them or whatever it was, but just for being connected and being in Spencer's life. Like, it just didn't really make any sense, especially because they hadn't really spoken in the 5-year time jump. Like, so why would they pick on them when Spencer wasn't really close with them anymore anyway? Like, why were they going after like Caleb, who she had a relationship with, or Toby, or like her parents? Like, I don't know, it's just a bit weird. I actually really liked Lucas, and that's why I wanted him and Hannah to end up together. She could see there's more to life than how you look to others. Yeah, I kind of get that. I think it would have been kind of a cute story for them to maybe have dated. I don't think end up together, because for me, I feel like it's still Hannah and Caleb. But yeah, that would have been kind of interesting, you know, because obviously they had this really cute friendship, and then I kind of like it as a friendship as well, because it kind of shows you don't always have to go out with your friends, but he always kind of had this crush on her, which was kind of cute. So yeah, but I don't know, I just think Lucas was never really had that boyfriend material for me. That's like, I never really paired them together because he was quite immature and would get very jealous and would act out and would have these weird like moments where he was a bit evil kind of. So, and then our final one for today, we have, I'm rewatching again at the moment, and I noticed how as soon as Emily found out Ali was alive, she turned toxic and bitchy to almost everyone who even spoke to her, as even the other girls at times, and Paige, even though Paige tried to warn her. I understand she found out and was probably overwhelmed and going through a lot of feelings, but it didn't excuse her behaviour to everybody. I think I agree. She did change once she knew that Ali was alive, but I also understand she, yeah, was very overwhelmed, and that was a lot to take on, like trying to help your friend who is supposed to be dead, and you know, she wasn't supposed to tell anybody kind of what was going on. But I do think after that, like up until until she left college, a lot of her story was about Ali, and then even when she came back after the time jump, like we had a few kind of episodes where it was about her again, and then it kind of turned to being back about Ali again. So yeah, I think there's definitely, when I go back, there's a little too much focus on relationships and love interests for sure. They kind of become the main thing about that liar, when it would have been interesting to see more storylines of just the liars, like their friendship or something that's happening with them that isn't related to a relationship or a love interest. So, but yeah, that is all of them that I have for today. I'm sure this is a very long video, so if you sat through the whole thing, thank you very much. But yeah, like I said before, let me know which ones you agree with, which ones you don't. Do you have any that I haven't mentioned? Because I would love to read about them. I have lots more PLL content coming, Gossip Girl content that I'm so excited about. It's just taking forever to edit. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.